Okay, it's Nick Dutch back again. I received a curious private message. I'm just going to go into that right now. It says, recently I've been diagnosed with a few mental illnesses due to my past. When I told one of my cousins, one of the biggest Bible bashers of the family, he turned to me and said, these illnesses your doctor has told you about are nothing but demons and can be healed. You need to go to church. At that point I went on a mental rant about how listening to some boring old fuck will not heal me, and this God cannot heal me either. I told him about you, and I'd like to hear your point of view, as you're a hilarious yet intelligent man. Well, thank you very much for the compliments, obviously. This Bible basher is a complete and utter fucking lunatic in every possible way. I mean, a paranoid schizophrenic will probably be a damn sight saner than this particular individual who says that going to church will cure you. It won't. Of anything, I don't think. I mean, there is something therapeutic and healthy about being a part of a religion, yes, and maybe that can have long-term positive health impacts, and also settle you down, give you some kind of like personal instruction, but not listening to one of these fundamentalist lunatic right-wing bastards with no fucking brains in their head, who happens to have got completely culted up. I mean, obviously, this weirdo who tells you that you are possessed by demons when we know full well as a species, okay? I mean, we know that there's evolution as a species. We know this, science has taught us this, and so on and so forth. But there's still more questions. I mean, on his side of things, and to a certain extent, as defense of this religious lunatic, yes, there are all kinds of experiences which people have had that they've tried to explain in some way but didn't quite know how, and so they may have labelled the one thing a spiritual experience or God or a demon or whatever. Okay, these experiences have happened in my experience, but to draw the connection between the two quite so strongly, it's fantasy world. It's like someone who's watched I don't know, one of those Dungeons and Dragons cartoons from the 80s and thinks it's real. It is fantasy, okay? I mean, It's difficult for me to keep my composture when dealing with people of any theological persuasion, whether they're Christian or pagan or Jewish or Muslim or Wiccan or Chaos Magician or anything, who happens to be a complete wanker. Alright, because that's what these people are being. They're drawing too many conclusions. I mean, I saw a documentary recently about Stonehenge, funnily enough. And in this documentary, what they said was one of the reasons it was located there was possibly because there were two scars in the land which became part of the processional path up to Stonehenge. And those scars in the land were made by, what's it called, a glacier, that's right, not an iceberg, that would be a Titanic situation. Get your history right, Nick, okay? Right, so this, this glacier stroke, iceberg stroke, whatever, scarred the land, and those two parallel lines happened to be in the direction which pointed to, what was it, the sunrise on midwinters? And so that then became like the big thing for the Stone Age culture. The gods have given, it's just by coincidence that these marks have been left in a certain place at a certain time. It's not a question of, oh, well, why have the gods given us these lines here? It's a question of, they're just there. Alright? And it is Stone Age thinking, Stone Age primitive thinking, to draw too many conclusions from that. Alright? Too many conclusions. And that's what people do within the supernaturalist culture, whether it's the orthodox religious culture, because that's still a supernaturalist culture if you think about it, or whether that's pagan supernaturalist culture, or whether that is chaos magician supernaturalist culture, or whether that's anything. Alright, it's drawing conclusions together too closely, and again, as I've said before, this is why middle school science is important, but sometimes, because it teaches you about the basics of the standards of truth. Then you move on through that for your secondary school education. You should pick up more understandings of the standards of truth, all right, or facts, or how we can say that something is most likely to be true. Because when you reach university, you reach the the level of understanding that science doesn't tell you facts. All right, scientific experiments show you what is most likely to be true under some specific circumstances. Okay, so therefore there's always more and more questions, and therefore that's why scientific theories have to carry on developing with the passage of time, and so does human intellectual growth as of an individual. But some people develop what I think they used to call in the old days monomania, which is an obsession with one thing. to the point whereby it like blankets out or wipes out all like intellectual thoughts about basically anything else. So about people, about life, about society, about truth, about science, about logic, about anything. Alright, so that's, you know, it's worthwhile accepting the scary, frightening fact that within the 21st century, okay, right now, 2014, right, this year, and probably next year as well, and the year after that, there are Stone Age people walking around us and amongst us. They're not Neanderthals, but they're Stone Age. Because they think like Stone Age people. They're kind of like, you know, I mean, mental. Maybe you should be like teaching them how to make a flint arrowhead or something and get them obsessed with that instead, you know. No, that'd make them even more dangerous, probably. You know, they're mental. They're fucking mental. Seriously mental. And for those of you who have your 3D anaglyphic glasses on today, I'm just going to do something interesting and curious that'll... Well, let's see if I can think of something interesting and curious to carry your way to give you the 3D effect. Oh, fuck it, I'll be really boring and just use the end of my electronic cigarette and see if I can generate a weird 3D effect as I move it slowly towards your face. Suck on that, buddy. The Stone Age men are among us. Be afraid. Be very afraid, yes.